Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about my college reflection. So finally, winter quarter has already ended, and if you can tell by my tone, um, yeah, quite a lot has went about during this past quarter. So with that being said, let's get started. So my first class that I took was computer systems and C programming. So basically it's like an intro to C class and some stuff about computer systems. My second class was vector calculus, and the third one was just a GE. So, yeah, but I'll tell you, man, this quarter was a pure nightmare, and I'll tell you why. So, computer systems and C programming. Apparently, in the last minute, the institution changed the professor, so apparently I got a harder one, and I really did not know what I was in for. So I did check the professor's rating, and he was a pretty hard one. So I was like, oh no, man. But anyways, I just wanted to get that class over with, and basically this is what happened. So basically, the teacher or the professor made us dig really deep. I don't know, like 10 feet, no, maybe 20 feet deep into C. So basically, he made us do a lot of data structures in C, not just like intros and basics of C. Like, this is not even an intro class. It's like you gotta do quite some advanced stuff in C. But technically it is an intro class, but to be honest, I'm glad I learned a lot in this class, because I would suffer in future classes if I did not know any like data structures in C or whatever. So yeah. Anyways, it's made me to the point where I can program proficiently. So at the same time, I'm kind of glad I took that class. But anyways, I'll explain that later. So I got a really hard professor, and not gonna lie, the class was a huge mess, especially towards the end of the quarter. But part of the reason was that this year, all the UCs went on a strike because the TAs weren't getting enough pay. So it kind of slowed everything down, and there were basically no TAs to help us. So yeah. But anyways, this class was super demanding. I really did not have any sort of social life or free time when I took that class, and at times it would get a bit frustrating. So towards the very end, I was working on the loss assignment. I literally spent all night, no sleep, all night, trying to debug some piece of code, and it was probably the worst thing I've ever done, because the next morning after debugging, I felt so tired. I felt funny. I just could not function properly, so I decided to sleep. It was probably the worst thing ever, because what happens is that I waste a couple of hours sleeping during the day, which before I could have slept, and basically make sure that I'm fully focused, because after you sleep you're fully functional when you're programming properly. Even my professor says that. And yeah, so definitely try not to pull all-nighters even when you don't have to. In my case, I don't think I had to, because it was just some small piece of code I was just debugging, and I think I think my mind was just off. So yeah. Yeah, but unfortunately I did not finish that assignment, but I still at least passed the class, so I'm happy with that. I just don't have to deal with that class anymore. So yeah. But my word of advice for taking this class is that make sure you have a very stable quarter, meaning that there aren't too many breaks or special events like Thanksgiving, which happens during fall quarter, and my birthday in my case. So yeah, so make sure you have a very stable quarter where you can basically focus on your work all the time, and not have anything in the way, right? And my second thing is to make sure you choose easier classes along with this class, because you definitely do not expect yourself to spend much time in other classes, so you can complete this class successfully and and with a good grade. So yeah, so definitely make sure to keep those two in mind. And yeah, and don't pull all-nighters, please. Don't do that. But if you have to, like, if you really have to, like, in the last minute, I guess go for it. But really, don't do that. Um, this is partly because that in this class, make sure you start assignments early, and so basically you have enough time to debug, and then basically you can have an extra day to check and make sure your code is up to quality. So yeah, this is the most important thing actually, is to make sure you start your programming assignments early. And there's some cases I didn't do that, and my code ended up being kind of a mess, but at least I still got good grades for those. So make sure you start your assignments early so you can debug and make sure that you have actual quality and working code. So yeah, so those are my 3 pieces of advice. So yeah, very demanding class. It was a nightmare, and for my 2 other classes, I literally cannot put much time into it, and in this case for math, that ended up getting me a lower grade than what I wanted. So I was kind of disappointed in myself because I really let my guard down. So yeah, but it's partially because of the mistake of choosing 3 classes, because I could have dropped one earlier. So that's why planning matters so much. You know, definitely gonna think about how much hours you're gonna have to put into the class. So yeah, and I think one of the good ways is to check rate my professors, because the difficulty and number of hours you have to put in the work really depends on the professor. So yeah, so professors are really hard, so professors are easy. So really check rate my professors, and you'll see what you're in for. Then based on that, if you get like a really hard professor, I'd suggest you take this class with one easier class, so you make sure that you can actually focus on this class and get a good grade. So yeah, but at this times during that class, I would get frustrated myself, and towards like the very end, I would start to mentally break down, and yeah, it was horrible. I had so much to study for. I got lots of finals, and yeah, it was horrible. But yeah, so that's why you gotta plan. You gotta plan a lot. It really matters. Yeah. And for my GE, we had to spend a lot of time watching movies. Wasn't much, but I think it did take quite a lot of time because some movies were like 2 hours long. I'm kind of glad I took the class, but on the other hand, I should have not taken the class, because like movies take a lot of time, and I could take that GE at any later time. Such case and such forth. But yeah, and about the finals, sorry I was rambling about it earlier. Yeah, I had 2 finals on the same day, right after my big programming assignment was due, and it sucked quite a lot. Yeah, 2 finals on the same day. I only had 1 day to study for all the finals, so I literally had to cram in everything as much as possible, and didn't really come out great. So yeah, I was kind of worried I would fail the final, because especially in this case, because like I crammed in so much stuff, and some of the stuff didn't go great, but it could be worse. But at least I did well. But yeah, honestly, I'm just kind of glad this quarter was over, because this quarter was such a huge mess. Eventually my GE class was like, screw it. Let's just forget about all this stuff and just worry about the strike, Yeah, that's what happened to my GE class, and yeah, it was a pure mess, and the grading was slowed down. And so speaking about the grading, pausing here for a second, grading was significantly slowed down for my CS class because of the strike. So there's like some major assignments and tests that did not come out not until like, 1 week into the winter break. So to be honest, it kind of stressed me out because I wasn't sure if I was gonna pass the class or not. So yeah, so this ended up becoming one of the most stressful winter breaks I've ever had. So just kind of freaking out and just thinking about what's next about me, and because like really the grade really determines what I'm supposed to do next, before the next quarter starts. But I'm glad I passed so I could just finally go on and relax and kind of just enjoy. So finally it's all over. Don't gotta deal with this. But anyways, yeah. And on a communication was slow. Some professors had to overwork themselves. It was a pure nightmare this quarter, and hopefully it never ever happens again because I really do not want to experience the same thing I had to before. So yeah, but to be honest, like taking this class, I'm kind of glad I learned quite a lot from C, to where I can program proficiently, because whenever we're given the programming assignments, we're not given any sort of template from our instructors. So yeah, I'm kind of glad I did learn quite a lot. And yeah, so I don't have too much to say, but some last things I want to say once again are my 3 pieces of advice for planning classes. So if you're taking a really hard class, make sure you have a really stable quarter, a quarter where you don't have to where so many things won't get in your way, and such things and such forth, like Thanksgiving. And number 2 is to make sure you stay on top of your game, start assignments early. And number 3 is to make sure you calculate the amount of hours for each class, so make sure you're not overloading yourself. In this case, I did overload myself. It was horrible, man. It was horrible, I tell you that. Yeah. And especially the strike, it did help and not help at the same time, because after the strike started, my GE class, I didn't have to do anything at all. I just didn't give a crap about it. But then for my CS class, there were no TA, so it was really, really hard to get help. But there's some students who are really, really helpful, so a big thanks to them. So yeah, but to be honest, I'm just really glad this quarter is over, and hopefully I'll never have to deal with it again. So yeah, that's it for my winter quarter reflection. With that being said, let's hope that next quarter goes better. Oh, and by the way, I'm really hoping that I can vlog more next quarter, because next quarter should be much more chill. Cause let's see, this last quarter I took 17 units, but this quarter I'll take 15, so 15 should be better. So yeah, hope for the best. Hopefully everything will be much more chill, because I think I really need it. Anyways, with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and with that being said, see you guys later.